Hello friends, welcome to Beyond the News. My name is Jim Grant. This is a news broadcast for people of all races, religions, colours, creeds that believe in building a better world based on truth and justice and returning to common sense. So then friends, coming up on today's show, this is being recorded on the 9th of July. Yeah, we recorded on the 9th of July today, and it'll be going out throughout July. I should probably take this opportunity to say to people that we won't be here in August, so we'll have a few shows in July, maybe the last Wednesday in July, and then we'll take a break from August and be back in September. But here's what's coming up on today's show. I'm afraid all in the news at the moment is the paedophile scandals at Westminster, and if you're a listener to the show on a regular basis, you'll know that this is something that I've been saying for years. I have never been naming any names. It's not my place to do so. Everyone has the right to habeas corpus, the right to innocence until proven guilty, so I'm not here name dropping or saying this bloke's a nonce or this bloke isn't. I'm here saying we have a systemic problem. We're in the upper end of the political system where they intermix with banking and corporate systems, aka Bilderberg. Am I saying anyone that goes to Bilderberg's a nonce or a paedophile? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that within this culture at the upper end, who else would want to go and... Well, we'll get into it. We'll get into it later. I should really just read up the news. So, new twist in Westminster scandal. 114 secret files on paedophile cases missing, admits government. Oh, there's a surprise. I bet they weren't missing on some of the celebrities, were they? But when it comes to the government, different story. That's by Simon Walters and Glenn Owen, 5th of July 2014, Daily Mail. Tories' new Labour law would ban all public sector strikes. Cameron plots the biggest attack on union in 30 years. That's Simon Walters again, Daily Mail, 6th of July. Millions of taxpayers' cash spent on venture capital fund run by Tory donor. Okay, how does that sort of tie in to the theme of the show? I'll let you know. BBC, ex-senior judge Buttle Sloss to head child sex abuse inquiry. Daily Mail. Home Office gave money to two groups linked to paedophiles. As two abuse inquiries are launched, Whitehall investigation finds nearly £500,000 was granted to organisations, but still closed down in local school and hospital. Westminster child abuse exclusive. Jeffrey Dickens also gave a copy of file to top prosecutor Sir Thomas Hetherington. So why did the Department of Public Prosecutions also fail to act on evidence of the paedophile ring? Interesting. So... listeners of this show will know that I always talk about things that are current happening, but these things are often current things that are happening that have been happening over the years, and it's often they take about 20 or 30 years to break. You know, basically it's called a government cover-up. Now, does that mean every Prime Minister is in it? No. Does it mean every Permanent Secretary is in it? No. It means that there is a group of people that cover stuff up within the government system, and we're going to be looking at who they might be and why they might do what they do. Exclusive. British taxpayers underwrote deals worth $140 million by firm based in Cayman Islands. Taxpayers $1 million bill for civil servants to hum along to Miley. That's Daily Mail Online by Simon Murphy, 6th of July. Then, Jimmy Savile invited guests to the royal party on Prince Charles's behalf. Robert Booth from The Guardian, 7th of November 2012. And why and how does this tie in to what I've talked about in the show before? Bohemian Groves. This is Brad Meltzer's Decoded on the History Channel, and it's a clip of them talking about Bohemian Grove. We've also got... we're going to start the show off with... Dennis Skinner voted off Labour National Executive Committee. That's Nicholas Watt from The Guardian, Wednesday, 2nd July 2014. Veteran MP... oh, and our guest at the end of the show will be, hopefully, we can get him on the line, David Mulholland again, journalist, ex of Jane's Defence Weekly, ex-journalist of Jane's Defence Weekly, and also independent comedy promoter and comedian. I'll be basically trying to get hold of him while I play the Bohemian Grove video. You know the way this tech stuff usually works on the show. So, here we are. Veteran MP replaced by John Healey in a move criticised by some members of the Labour Party as politically immature. Dennis Skinner, the scourge of Tory Prime Ministers from Ted Heath to David Cameron, who was dubbed the Beast of Bolsover, has been voted off Labour's governing National Executive Committee, prompting an outcry from across the party. So, this is... how does this all... I'm going to try and tie up all these things today. So you've got a very good man in Dennis Skinner, very old school Labour, being booted off by Labour what it claims to represent. So, basically, what is going on in the world? You've got the upper echelons, and it's just the upper echelons of the three main parties, and they all like business done a certain way. They all like to follow a certain agenda, and that's why you can't tell the difference between David Cameron and Tony Blair and Margaret Thatcher. They've all more or less done the same things. They've all more or less... they all like to regime change. You know, David Cameron in Libya and pushing for Syria. Thatcher had her interventionalism. You've got Tony Blair, obviously Iraq will always stain him. So there's a certain culture that you don't want people in the certain... You know, you can have your reds and you can have your red blues, but the only people that rise to the top of each party will be the people who agree on the same things, which is why you see both Ed Balls and George Osborne at Bilderberg, which, if you don't know what it is, go back, listen to our other shows. In a nutshell, people like Dennis Skinner are not wanted by Bilderberg, and that's probably because when they were meeting in Watford, he gave this speech about Bilderberg and this is from the 10th of June 2013, Kenneth Clarke, Minister without portfolio, BBC Parliament, and it's the Bilderberg Conference urgent question. And this is by Dennis Skinner, the man that was just booted off.
Have you been, Dennis? Have you been there, Dennis?
I wouldn't be seen dead with them. How come that when all those media moguls, the bankers, politicians have been meeting together since 1954, not one of them was able to spot the recession coming? Or maybe they caused it.
We have had trade unionists there sometimes. There are plenty of social democrats. I don't think anybody as left-wing as the honourable member has ever attended in my experience, but if I scratch my memory, I probably remember somebody. Obviously, the honourable member forecast with absolute precision the course of the forthcoming collapse of capitalism in 2007. In that respect, I do agree his foresight was rather better than that of most pundits. We continue to meet in the hope that next time we'll see it coming with slightly more clarity.
Okay, so the point being, there's a certain type that goes to Bilderberg with a certain agenda, and Bilderberg likes those in power at the top end of the parties to be on their way of thinking. So, Skinner, 82, who was first elected to Parliament in 1970, was replaced in the NEC backbenchers MP section by the former Minister John Healey. The other backbenchers elected to the NEC were the former Deputy Leader Margaret Beckett and the Liverpool Walton MP Steve Rotherham. The Labour Party denied reports that Skinner had been unseated after irritating Miliband's office. Again, you see, you need to understand how the way these things work. Iraq was Tony Blair's fault. So, when he goes, we're left with a mess. Blame Tony. Blame Tony. Booting off decent people from the committees is Miliband's fault. So when it's Miliband's gone, blame Miliband. And the same Bilderberg masters get the new crop of people coming through over and over again. You see the puppet masters behind the puppets. And am I saying Miliband's a puppet? I don't think Miliband's actually been. But I will always say it is my opinion that the top ends of the party are following the same agendas. I think if you say that to the majority of the British people, then they will agree that there isn't a great deal of difference between the main parties at the very top, and they do seem to continually follow an agenda. So I'm going to say that opinion with pride. It's not, I don't know that Miliband has had any dealings with Bilderberg, but when something... if you've got if you want to say to the British people that you're concerned about the corruption between banking and politicians, if you were Ed Miliband and wanted to make a real statement, then Dennis Skinner's the kind of MP that you want to go and do that, because he's the only one raising questions about it in Parliament, about Bilderberg. We just played that clip from the Houses of Parliament there. So when you've got your only guy, and Tom Watson's good as well, but when you've got your only guys that's questioning that and he gets booted off the committee, I have to wonder, don't you? And it at least shows me that he has no real effort in trying to go after these people and try and say to the British people there is an alternative way, which is what Russell Brand was doing a few weeks ago in London. Remember, this is being recorded mid-July, where it wasn't a political rally, it wasn't get the Tories out, it was all about no more money to banks, there must be another way to austerity. So that's that article. So how does this tie in with the other unpleasant articles that I'm going to be playing, reading about today? Well, new twist in Westminster scandal. Aha, that's my guest. I should put my phone on silent. How does this tie in? Well, okay. Again, I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to say anyone's guilty. I'm not going to point any fingers at anyone. I'm talking in generalisations. So, new twist in Westminster scandal. 114 secret files on paedophile cases missing in Bits government. Government says 114 secret files on paedophile cases have gone missing. 4 new cases of alleged child abuse are to be investigated by the police. Top lawyer to investigate handling of dossier alleging paedophile activity. Dossier was passed to Home Secretary Leon Brittain, but subsequently lost. The file was originally handed over by Tory MP Geoffrey Dickens in 1983. David Cameron has been forced to order a fresh hunt for the missing dossier. So, I'm sure you can read between the lines on what that means. The row over an alleged Westminster child sex ring took a new turn last night after the government admitted that 114 secret files on paedophile cases have gone missing. Secret file. So let's listen to that. You've got secret files on paedophiles. The government has secret files on paedophiles. Now, I can understand that they might need to be kept secret if they were... Everyone has the right to innocent proven guilty. So if no one's been found to be guilty in a court of law, then you can't just go waving he said, she said around. You know, it needs to be investigated, doesn't it? But my point is... a top lawyer is to investigate the government's handling of a dossier alleging high-level paedophile activity, which was first passed to Home Secretary Leon Brittain by Tory MP Geoffrey Dickens in 1983. But my point is, there wasn't an investigation, was there? So it's okay to keep them secret with the mind to doing an investigation and then putting people before a jury of their peers, but it was kept secret and then lost. Okay, so the bigger point here is people say that there's no conspiracy behind it all. No one would be involved in that kind of thing. Systemic. So here you've got the example of 114 secret files, and they went missing, and they were handed over 30 years ago. So you've got a variety of governments that have kept these files secret / lost. And anyone that says, oh well, if they were lost in 1983, how would anyone else know to find them? Something of this important. What I'm saying is, you only need a few people to really bury something important, and the rest will go along. And if they're ready to keep 114 secret files secret and then lost, and no one looks for them for 30 years until it's all over the news, then that is a conspiracy, isn't it? Is there any other word for that? I suppose you could call it massive coincidence and incompetence that the Home Secretary just happened to lose this very important... I mean, this isn't like... and this is very important, isn't it? The sexual abusers of children. I mean, those are pretty nasty people. And God knows that government intrude into our lives on the smallest of matters in the name of our safety and for the sake of the children on a regular occasion, don't they? Oh, do it for the children, do it for the children. You know, it needs to be done for the children. You know, government uses children often enough to push its agenda through and treat us like criminals. But when it comes to 114 secret files that are lost, it could be a coincidence that those files just happened to go missing. But then that's gross incompetence. But you then need gross incompetence and a coincidence that no one has decided to really push for it. Because this isn't the first time it's happened, has it? If you're a listener of the show from a few shows ago, you'll know that the police handed over to the Crown Prosecution Service evidence on Cyril Smith. Remember those articles? Look at mybeyondthenews.co.uk website for information on that. So what am I trying to say? Conspiracies, this is either massive incompetence and massive coincidence, time and time and time again, or it is a conspiracy. A conspiracy means more than one. So if you don't believe it's coincidence and gross incompetence over and over and over again about really big issues, when they take the smallest of issues over and over again, I mean, they don't lose people's speed camera details, do they, when you get done doing 37 in the 30 zone? Not advocating speeding, I'm just saying that I would think this is a far greater crime. And they don't lose details when it comes to our crimes or misdemeanours. But when it comes to investigating themselves on the most serious of issues, you have a systemic failure of competence over and over again, and it just happens to be a coincidence, or you have a conspiracy of successive governments covering up the nastiest of things for 30 years. And when I say governments, I'm talking about a governmental system. I'm not naming any politicians or MPs in particular, not naming any prime ministers that they should have done something about it. I'm not pointing the finger at any blame. I'm saying that there is more than one if there is a conspiracy, or it is just total coincidence, and it is up to you to listener to decide. I know what my opinion is, and if you continue to believe it is total coincidence, and you continue to believe that this is all just an accident, then, try saying that to the police next time they pull you over for something you're doing wrong. It's just a coincidence. Oh, no, you didn't, but I just total accident. I'm really sorry about that. I lost my road tax disc. Oh, did you? Yeah, it was a complete accident, but you've lost it 114 times. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It really is just a coincidence. Now, you either believe that theory, or it is a conspiracy. If it is a conspiracy, then you have a conspiracy covering up the nastiest of crimes at the highest of levels. And if that is possible, then what else do you think is possible? What else do you think they've done? And when I say they, I mean the military-industrial complex, that governments come and go, and they do business and they do nasty things with some of the people that are there like-minded thinking. Now, what kind of mentality does it take to do something like that? What kind of mentality does it take to do the horrible things to children and then cover it up? It's called sociopath, psychopath, that kind of thing. And what else do you think a mentality takes to be able to do things like this, where you say, exclusive British taxpayers underwrite deals worth 140 million by firm based in Cayman Islands? And this is from The Independent on the 9th of July 2014. Oh no, it's written on Sunday the 6th of July 2014. The government is using taxpayers' money to underwrite 140 million worth of deals for a company whose ultimate ownership is based in a notorious tax haven, UK Export Finance, a branch of the Department for Business, is risking public funds to provide insurance cover for deals involving the aircraft leasing firm AWOS Aviation Capital Limited. The company is backed by Terra Firma, one of the world's largest private equity firms, which is controlled by Guy Hands. The financier is a close friend of William Hague. The Foreign Secretary was best man at Mr. Hands' wedding and was paid up to £70,000 a year between 2002 and 2009 for sitting on the political council of Terra Firma. Now, what sort of mentality does it take to say, let's help this company out and close down schools and hospitals? Let's make people suffer. Because when you close down hospitals, people suffer. Okay? Why do you think there are people so many up in arms about it? So many people want to save the local hospital. What mentality does it take to say, make our own British people suffer, and I'm going to give the work and underwrite to the tune of £140 million to someone whose company is a friend of someone at the highest level of government? And what kind of mentality does it take for the people involved in the process to keep quiet about this until it obviously comes to the light with the Independent? What kind of mentality does that take to be able to look at a sick child or old person? Because now old people are being told, no, you're too old for certain medications. It's just, you're just too old. We don't have the money to spend it on people like you. What kind of mentality does it look into to know that your actions are going to hurt or kill people while you give money to underwrite an insurance company? What mentality does it take to be able to do that, and then still go into schools and hospitals and kiss sick people and say, I love schools and hospitals, while all the time your policies take money away from them and give them to the friends of people in the higher echelons? What mentality does it take to do that? I put it to you, it's a sociopathic, psychopathic mentality. So that's how, and it's this another example here. Taxpayers' £1 million bill for civil servants to hum along to Miley. Royalties paid so civil servants can listen to radio at work. This is by Simon Murphy, 6th of July 2014. Taxpayers' footing bill of nearly £1 million for civil servants' radio royalties. Figures reveal £848,904 has been spent on music royalties since 2009. Taxpayers' Alliance's taxes are for essential services, not radio music. Taxpayers are footing a bill of nearly £1 million so that civil servants can listen to the radio at work. All right, not quite as sociopathic as, stuff like that can happen. But again, how does this tie into the theme of the show I'm doing today? This is an example of, well, it's only listening to a little bit of radio, isn't it? But it all adds up to 1 million, and then you need to close a school and hospital. Now, all the people listening to their radio, they're not sociopathic. They just want to listen to the radio, don't they? But this is an example of compartmentalisation. You're all sitting there thinking, well, listening to the radio is not going to do any harm. But you've then got a system which needs to sap money for that, and that's taken from the taxpayer. And someone at some point is accountable for that up at the highest level, and he's gone, do I want to spend? And it's only probably the one person in the department that has the ability to understand what's going on. The only one person that has the ability to think, do I want to spend that 1 million on radios listening, or do I understand? I like radio. I'm on radio. Be great if they listened to me, wouldn't it? But I don't think that's going to happen. But my point being, this is an example of how a conspiracy can get together. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy for people to listen to my on it. I want to illustrate. This is a very big subject, and I'm trying to break it down into little nuggets of how these little things build up towards a bigger picture. So you've got one person that says, I'm going to spend that 1 million on radio, not hospitals, okay? And the rest of them just get told the decision is fine. And all around them they see little cutbacks in hospital things, but they're unaware that if they didn't listen to the radio, that they would have an extra 1 million to spend, and maybe those cuts wouldn't happen. But they're unaware of that because it's lots of different people with lots of small fees. You see, it's an example of compartmentalisation of how people go along with a system, not knowing that the damage it's done, because to them it was only a small little thing. Okay? So, see, then you've got an example of how many very good people doing something completely innocent can, en masse, cause harm, and that someone in the system high up has allowed it. Okay? Then, Westminster Child Abuse Exclusive. Geoffrey Dickens also gave copy of file to top prosecutor Sir Thomas Hetherington. So why did DPP also fail to act on evidence of paedophile ring? Sunday the 6th of July 2014. Fears over, and this is the Independent, fears over an establishment cover-up and of alleged Westminster paedophile gang in the 90s, 80s deepened on Sunday night as it emerged that an explosive dossier of evidence lost by Home Office was also handed to the Director of Public Prosecutions. The file, believed to contain child sex abuse relating to at least 8 public figures, was compiled by the campaigning Conservative MP Sir Geoffrey Dickens, who died in 1995. 2 copies of the dossier were previously thought to have existed. One was handed to Leon Britton, Home Secretary at the time, while the other was kept at Mr. Dickens' family home and was later destroyed by his wife. But in a new newspaper interview in August 1983, 2 months into Leon Britton's term as Home Secretary under Margaret Thatcher, Mr Dickens revealed he had also sent a copy to the then Director of Public Prosecutions. So, what I said earlier about was it just a complete coincidence Leon Britton lost it? Well, now you're having to do... If you are still thinking about along the times of it being a coincidence, then there's another coincidence that you have to deal with here, and that was the Department of Public Prosecutions did nothing about it as well. Okay? It's time to face the very real possibility that within government circles, for a very long time, there have been paedophiles. And I'm certain if you were to look in any walk of life, you'd probably find one or something like that. But it does seem to be rather systemic in Westminster. This is not an isolated incident. Cyril Smith, you had... And also, listeners to this show will know I played the clip of Tom Watson maybe 1-2 years ago, I forget about it now, specifically warning the Prime Minister of paedophile rings operating in Downing Street. So why then has it taken until what? Now? Early July 2014 to do something about it? It seems time and time again that nothing is done until it gets so big and you get so much evidence, then it all starts to leak through and reality seems to seek through all their lies. So, on Monday, the Home Secretary Theresa May is due to make a statement on the affair in the House of Commons. She is likely to come under pressure to explain how 2 government agencies were able to lose the dossier. She may also be asked to reveal whether previous Home Secretary trawl of its records included files held by the security services. So, there's a video here about... Should we play the video? I haven't watched the video yet. Let's see if it plays okay. I'll stop it if there's an advert.
Mark Sedwell has given us a full explanation of what he regards as the first review.
This is Keith Vaz MP, Home Affairs Select Committee.
It's a very detailed account of what's been happening over the last year, much of which has never got into the public domain. And I welcome the fact that he's appointing an independent person from outside Whitehall and outside Westminster to look at this. But at the end of the day, that's just a review of a review. And what we need is to look further and see whether there is any action necessary as a result of the review. And therefore, while we welcome the process, there is more to be done. That's why we've called Mr. Sedwell to give evidence to the Select Committee on Tuesday, where we will examine him on what he's told us so far, in particular on the assertion that 114 Home Office files have somehow gone missing. We need to know how they got missing, who authorised their removal, if they were removed, and what kind of system is in place to protect important information of this kind. In the 7 years I've been chairman of this committee, we've had many examples of passports being lost, many examples of files going missing, but this is a loss of files on an industrial scale, and therefore quite huge compared to anything we've been used to in the past. Well, we need to track all this information. When a Member of Parliament, whoever that might be, writes to a minister, there must be a tracking system. I appreciate this is over 30 years old, and some documents may have gone missing, but frankly, a dossier handed over by a Member of Parliament needs to have been tracked appropriately, and that's why it's important that we look carefully at this.
Lord Tebbit, the former Conservative Cabinet Minister, said on Sunday there may well have been a cover-up over a powerful child abuse ring. At that time, I think most people would have thought that the establishment, the system, was to be protected, and if a few things had gone wrong with it, it was more important to protect the system than delve too far into it, he told the BBC's Andrew Marr show. So let's break that down. What that means is we politicians are more important than you peasants. Asked if he thought there had been a political cover-up in the 1980s, he replied, I think there may well have been, but it was almost unconscious. It was the thing that people did at the time. Yeah, don't worry about it. This is just something minor. Don't worry about it. The existence of a third copy of Mr. Dickens' dossier is likely to intensify demands for a full national inquiry into allegations of organised child sex abuse, which Mr. Cameron has previously dismissed. A public petition on the change.org website, organised by Labour MP Todd Watson, had on Sunday evening attracted more than 21,000 signatures. That's the same Tom Watson that gave his speech years ago. And David Cameron then promised, I'll look into it. Absolutely, that's really important. Nothing was done, was it? So you've got the same thing over and over. Do you see a theme here? The police handover for Smiles and Cyril Smith up into the 70s. You've got Dickens's dossier given to DPP and Leon Britton in the 1980s. And then you've got Tom Watson warning David Cameron, what was it, 2 years ago? 2 or 3? I lose track of time. I don't think it was last year, was it? At least a year. I forget now. And, it all looks like nothing was done until all these things come up in one go. And then David Cameron go, I better look into that. I'll have to make it look like I'm doing something, won't I? Do you see a trend? Now, I'm not implying David Cameron was a paedophile. I'm saying look at the trends. Look at the trends. And yet, at the same time, all these people will always tell you, we need to do this for the children. We need to do this, and this for the children. We need to... Basically, British people, you need to suffer, but it's for the children. We need to go into Libya for the children, and we need to bomb those women and children and remove Gaddafi for the children. Not saying Gaddafi was good. I'm saying what kind of mentality does it take to go and bomb women and children? And that's what happened in Libya. Go look at the photos. And I'm not saying Gaddafi was a good person. I'm saying that it takes a certain type of mentality of person to say, I'm going to bomb children and tell people that I'm going to save children. Okay? It takes a certain type of mentality. And that's, we know what that mentality is like. I've been saying for years, I believe that people in the upper echelons of the financial, corporate, and political system, some of them are sociopathic. And again, not naming any names or pointing any fingers. Right, so this sort of behaviour that we get into, you need to see it over and over again. And again, what else is part of the establishment? Well, the royal family is part of the establishment, which brings us on to Wednesday, 7th of November 2012. Just thought I'd bring back a little story for you. Jimmy Savile invited guests to a royal party on Prince Charles's behalf. TV executive says colleagues thought it was weird that Savile was involved in organising royal engagements. Prince Charles enlisted Jimmy Savile as a royal party organiser and asked him to invite guests to Kensington Palace on his behalf, it was emerged. Savile invited a group of television producers involved in an ITV telethon in 1988 to a cocktail party at the palace. He was not involved with the telethon, of which Prince Charles was patron, and did not attend the party. So, and we will cover on other shows how Jimmy Savile and Prince Charles seemed to have a friendship. So let's just leave it there for that one. I'm just, just giving you that thing. So it brings us on to another article, more up to date now. This is from 7th of July 2014. Home Office gave money to groups linked to paedophiles. As 2 abuse inquiries are launched, Whitehall investigation finds nearly £500,000 was granted to organisations. Inquiry found clear evidence that £476,250 was granted to organisations, given over a decade to who's connected to paedophile information exchange. Findings released as Home Secretary Theresa May announced major inquiry. It comes as paedophile scandals continue to engulf Westminster. So there you go. A separate inquiry led by NSPCC Chief Peter Wanless is to review an investigation conducted last year into the Home Office's handling of past child sex abuse allegations. Prosecutors decided in 1998 not to lay child sex abuse charges against Liberal MP Cyril Smith, despite ruling they were likely to succeed. How important is that? They were told, yep, he's probably guilty, but don't do anything about it. And we've had success. We've had Tory governments, then Labour, and then Tory again, and they haven't done anything about this. They haven't gone to this. They haven't dug these files up. No one there with an axe to grind saying, right, I was blocked by this administration, now I'm going to come in and do it. Now we've got now we've got a different party in power. Okay, whatever party's in power, the result is the same. Do you see how that works? Okay, this hasn't been. This wasn't all brought to light the moment Tony Blair got into power. Oh, it's all, not during the 80s. It was all the Tories in power. None of this came to light when Tony Blair came to power. All right? It's all as a result of massive public pressure. Shows like this and other people speaking out and saying, hey, it's not just the celebrities. And let's move on to, and I'm just checking out the time here because we need to go to our guest. So another example, millions of taxpayers' cash spent on venture capital fund run by Tory donor. Sunday, 6th of July, Adam Beecroft is latest member of Conservative Leaders Group to face questions. Millions of pounds of taxpayers' money is being spent on a venture capital fund overseen by one of the Conservative Party's biggest donors. The British Business Bank, which is run by the Department of Business, has committed $7.8 million to the Dawn Capital 2 investment fund, Whitehall documents show. Again, it takes a certain type of mentality to go, that person's a mate of mine. I'm going to divert money from sick children to his private capital fund. He's already a multi-millionaire. I think I'll do it anyway. I've got to ask myself, human greed can account for a certain amount of things, for sure. But it does take a certain mentality, doesn't it? I mean, if they weren't closing down schools and hospitals, you can say greed, but it does take a certain mentality to know full well that your cuts are going to cause massive problems, and that disabled person can't get their benefits anymore. It does take a certain type of mentality to do that kind of thing, doesn't it? And that mentality, I think, we'll explore, perhaps. Let's do it now.
We're on it. We'll get back to you. We're on it. We'll get back to you.
This is from the History Channel, ladies and gentlemen.
To my knowledge, only one man has ever snuck into the Grove during their July event. In the year...
I should preface this. What is Bohemian Grove? It's where a very important American businessmen and businessmen from around the world meet. Every president from the United States, I think, more or less, for like the last several decades have been. Check that out on Wikipedia. You've got... So who are the sort of people that involved in the worlds of business and finance? Where are these deals made? Where do these people meet? Well, Bohemian Grove is one of them. And look at the things that they do. This is from the History Channel, ladies and gentlemen. So if you think this is weird, it is. But it's the History Channel. It's real.
2000, Alex Jones actually managed to covertly record the cremation of care ceremony. And while I want to hear how he interprets what he saw there, what I'm really hoping is he'll tell Buddy, Mac, and Scott how he got inside.
Other members of the press have gotten in, but they've always been arrested and had their film confiscated. And in July of 2000, I snuck in and shot some hidden video, the only video to ever get out of the Grove.
How did you manage to sneak in?
I basically came to the main gate and crawled down through the swamp and then went up and got into the main parking area where they have these big open backed trucks that come in and take the members in. And I basically just climbed on to the truck with some other members, had a conversation with them, and then they stopped us at an internal checkpoint, and some security people climbed on asking us what group we were with, and I knew enough about some of the club's names inside to tell them I was part of the Hillbillies, which is the Texas delegation, the Bushes and their friends.
And your accent worked.
And I got to say, you kind of look the part.
So Alex Jones actually sneaks into Bohemian Grove with a video camera, and he shoots the footage of what he saw. Legally, we're not allowed to show it to you because he broke the law in obtaining it, but I've seen it, and it is pretty compelling stuff.
Did you ever think you were going to get found out, Alex, while you were in there?
Oh, the whole time. And I basically just sat behind a building on the grass for the next 2.5 hours or so. And then as it got dark, I then went out to witness the cremation of care ritual.
I'm wondering why you wanted to get in there in the first place.
Well, I had begun to research Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones at Yale. Bohemian Grove is where they all get together.
People love blaming things on Skull and Bones. The rumors run rampant about the legendary secret Yale fraternity. They've been accused of stealing the bones of Geronimo, Pancho Villa, and even our 8th president, Martin Van Buren. But none of that has ever been proven. The club taps members of the Yale junior class to join its ranks, and past members have included William F. Buckley, John Kerry, both Presidents Bush, and of course, the late President William Howard Taft.
And it was William Howard Taft, the president, who came here to the Bohemian Grove, who, of course, was the high-level Skull and Bones member, who first began to talk about a world government, a League of Nations, which was then picked up a few years later by Woodrow Wilson. And so this whole system is their plan for a world government, and it is based on a Germanic death cult. And you've got all these world leaders and all these powerful people together before they have the ritual beneath these giant redwoods in this huge Hall of the Mountain King is what it's like. It's scary.
You're talking about a new world order. You're talking about a big conspiracy about these people getting together and talking about stuff that's going to basically bring us all down, and we're still here.
I know the direction these guys are taking us in is undemocratic. You've got all these CIA directors, attorney generals, vice presidents, presidents.
Going to the Grove.
You have the former German chancellor, Helmut Schmidt. He says, we have our own Druidic groves in Germany. But my favorite place to go, and he calls it Druidic, is Northern California.
Groves have held a sacred place in the lore of Druids for centuries. This mysterious order of Celtic priests have performed both human and animal sacrifice in their groves in ancient England. And historically, similar orders, Romans, Greeks, Scandinavians, also all considered groves to be sacred spaces.
What happened once the ceremony began?
It was so creepy. I had snuck in. I'd seen the 40-foot stone owl. I'd seen the black altar in front of it during the day. Then as it got dark, to watch over 1,000 prominent people march down the little pond in front of this idol, and then to see the ritual unfold from there, I was thinking one thing: get the footage and get out of here.
Some of the wealthiest and most influential men in the country are meeting to discuss some of the biggest ideas, not just in America, but worldwide. Are they making handshake agreements? Come on. I don't think U.S. presidents are meeting in secret to plot against us. But I do believe that there are people out there who would benefit from hanging out socially with a president. So the question is, how far would those people go? We're in California investigating the Bohemian Club. In the year 2000, Alex Jones actually managed to covertly record the cremation of care ceremony. Anyone could have busted him any second. It reminded me of that scene from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where the non-body snatchers are trying to blend in with everyone else. When he gets to the spot where they do the cremation of care ceremony, though, it suddenly gets real dark. It's a scene that looks like a crowded amusement park at night, you know, when everyone's standing around shoulder to shoulder, waiting for the fireworks to start. As the ceremony begins, people are dressed in what look like long robes, like a monk would wear. They're carrying flaming torches. They start walking on and off some sort of stage set in front of this giant owl.
What are we seeing here? I mean, it looks like a cross or something?
That's a person. It's a herald. And he's saying, for behold, here is Bohemia's shrine, and holy are the pillars of this house. This is their temple, these redwoods. And while all this is going on, a black carriage comes out, an old-fashioned hearse led by horses, and there is a body in effigy there. The owl is saying there's only one goddess that can help us, only one true deity. And they bring fire, and then the owl starts speaking to them, saying, you've got to burn dull care, and it's an effigy of a child-sized human figure. So then Care says, no, you're not, and a thunderbolt is thrown down.
And what looks like a comet shoots through the air and at the stage. Alex says it was an elaborate pyrotechnic show, and that was it. That was the cremation of care ceremony. And I can tell you it looks no better, no cooler than what they have in a fraternity, but just with really good pyrotechnics.
So this is part of the pyrotechnics.
And yes, and then the owl starts speaking and said, listen, you got to give me that effigy, you got to burn it right now, and I'll take care of all your problems.
A word of caution here, and this may be the most important thing I say in this entire episode. It is very dangerous to try to interpret something from the outside. It's as if someone unfamiliar with Christianity stepped into a Catholic church and heard a priest in the middle of Holy Communion say the words, this is the body of Christ, this is the blood of Christ. Without knowing the context, the ritual can seem strange or unusual, even a little frightening. The same goes for the cremation of care or any other unfamiliar ceremony. Without context, we cannot possibly know what is going through the mind of the Bohemian Grovers. The only problem? They're not talking.
Alex, have you had any ramifications for having snuck into this place?
Right after we shot the footage, I was trying to send it out to the media. And in 3 separate instances, we would copy the tapes, have them, check them, mail them, and they would be erased. They didn't get lost 3 times. They got erased 3 times. Right when I got home, about a week after, we would get death threats routinely where they would say, I'm watching you. I see the little chihuahua in the backyard. And in a very mean voice, like out of a movie, say, I'm going to cut your head off.
Oh, jeez. Alex, you're the most familiar with the place that we know of. What's another way to get in there other than through the gate?
Well, they do arrest people if they trespass. I mean, it happens all the time. It is a high surveillance area. I saw a lot of cables going up into the trees and saw cameras all over the place. And the security, since I snuck...
So anyway, we'll leave it there. Basically, yeah, people involved in business and upper echelons of business... So people involved in the upper echelons of corporate business and finances go to a grove. You can see the ceremony for yourself. It is weird, where they... burn the effigy of a child in the cremation of the care ceremony, saying that this clears all their wrongdoings for the year before their 40-foot stone giant owl god Molech. Okay? And you wonder why 114 cases go missing. That's in burn the effigy of a child, ladies and gentlemen. They engage in mock human child sacrifice at the high levels of corporate meetings and high levels of US government. And you can bet your bottom dollar in our multinational corporate world that some people involved in the British political and corporate system will be there too. Okay, so go to YouTube, cremation of care ceremony. It is all there for you to see. The footage itself is there. The History Channel might not be able to show it. I'm not going to show it, but it is weird, and you can go on YouTube and you can see it. Right, let's go our guest. Let's see if he's there. This will be David Mulholland, former journalist for Jane's Defence Weekly, currently comedian and promoter of comedy clubs in London, and they're a pleasure to play. Is it going to be one of those days? Perhaps I can go on YouTube and play some of the Owl God footage. Let's see if he answers. See if I've had any missing text messages. No, should be there. Oh! Owl God time it is. Let's go on YouTube and let's do the old... let's see if I can bring you up footage of the cremation of care ceremony. That's not happening, is it? Right then. It's Molech the Owl God time. I haven't checked this clip. Obviously, this was not part of the thing.
Now we're going to get to some enhanced video. And we'll go play-by-play through some of the more occultic statements. Like, we shall read the sign in your burned effigy, the bound body. That's exactly what the Druids actually did. They would roast cats, goats, oxen, horses, and watch the pain of how they died, and from this extract some type of mystical energy force or power, and also be able to tell the future.
Now, I'd like to point out that I don't believe in all that kind of stuff that Alex just said, and I've heard him say on many occasions the following statement. It doesn't necessarily mean I believe it, it means that these people are engaging in it. Now, do they believe it? Yeah, otherwise why would they do it? That doesn't mean it's real. It means they're either real or they're nuts. I have no way of deciding which one is which. But either way, you've got a load of people in robe outfits engaging in occultic ceremonies before a 40-foot stone giant owl in which they're burning the effigy of a child. And these people, no doubt, will have says in corporate systems and political systems that involve children. It's probably not a good idea. So here we go, the cremation of care footage.
We beseech the Stratus State Council.
Upon further research of the ritual you just witnessed, it becomes clear. It is a mixture of the Babylonian Canaanite cult of Moloch,
fused with ancient druidic rites, where you have the female side of Satan, which they first call out to in the she, and then towards the horn god with the he, mixed with Masonic rites from Scotland. It's very likely that many of the 1,500 to 2,000 member crowd had really no idea what they were actually watching because it was thinly veiled. Here we have some more enhanced video as the boatman, again with his face painted up like a skull, pulls his boat across the small lake towards the high priest with the red of his cloak visible, with his hand outstretched as if he is pulling the damned soul towards him as they throw off their cares, their conscience for what they have to do in the world. Also, you have the arrangement of the circle of higher-level priests around him, the high priest in lighter colors, and then the outer rings of red, and then those in black. This is consistent with the darker workings of the occult, not just with the Western countries, but also worldwide. Now, when you see that black edge coming to the field, that's because we zoomed in on the video, and many times the picture was almost out of the screen, so that's the edge of the field or the view of the camera.
So this is the boatman bringing now, literally like a boatman bringing a boat along the lake, and on there is the effigy of the child. It's a full-size dummy, at least we hope.
We'll get back to more enhanced video of the ritual here in just a minute. But remember, PJ, one of the things that is extremely obvious by looking at the program handed out to Bohemian Club members is the person creating the program had a deep understanding of the occult.
This is all the druids in their robes going through their rituals. The boatman is then, the effigy is then put on before Molech.
So shall we burn thee,
And
the pursuers here has lost.
Footage begins. Now remember, a lot of very important politicians, I think every president, more or less every president, has been here to Bohemian Grove in the United States.
Has lost its power under these friendly trees. So shall we burn thee once again this night, and in the flames that eat thine effigy, we shall read the sign, Midsummer sets us free. You shall burn me once again.
If you're wondering what on earth you're listening to,
which hither ye have
you should be.
from regions where I reign, ye fools and priests. I spit upon your fire. Wow. Prince of all mortal wisdom, owl of Bohemia, we beseech thee, grant us thy counsel. O great owl of Bohemia, we thank thee for thy adjuration.
You've really got to see this live to see that how weird this is. Go and look at the list of attendees of Bohemian Grove over the years, the cremation of care ceremony. You'll find, I mean, there's no official list as far as I know, but members of the Bohemian Club, very high-ranking politicians, very high-ranking leaders of business worlds, people who basically will have the say one way or another in children's lives, education systems, that kind of thing. All burning away their cares by burning the effigy of a child before a 30-foot stone giant owl in giant robes brought to them by a boatman on a lake in the sky mast. And I'll say that again.
Begone, dull care. Fire shall have its will of thee. Begone, dull care. And all the winds make merry with thy ducks. Hail, fellowship's eternal flame. Once again, midsummer sets us free.
There's all the attendances screaming. Because it's not just the people on the robes. That are the other side of the water.
There you see the funeral
2,000
pyre
people.
burning with the effigy of a human, or it could be real, ladies and gentlemen. There's been a lot of strange going-ons in that area of Northern California, but this is what the establishment is into right here in America, the cremation of care. And this was July 15th, 2000. These people are deadly serious, those taking part in the ceremony.
So that's where we'll leave it there. Ex-senior judge Butler Sloss to head child sex abuse inquiry. Baroness Butler Sloss said work would begin as soon as possible. That's 8th of July 2014. Retired senior judge Elizabeth Butler Sloss has been named as the chairwoman of a wide-ranging review into historical child sex abuse. The inquiry will examine how state institutions handled their duty of care to protect children from paedophiles. Well, their duty of care, they cremate that midsummer, didn't they? Some of them, I expect, would have attended that ceremony. At the higher level of most institutions end up there. Baronet Butler Sloss said the Cleveland child abuse led the Cleveland child abuse inquiry in the late 1980s. Labour MP Simon Duxbury, who led calls for an inquiry, said she could be seen as part of the establishment, but others welcomed the appointment. Lady Butler Sloss, 80, is a member of the House of Lords and sister of former Lord Chancellor Michael Havers. Interesting. We don't want it to look like an establishment inquiry. That would send out the wrong signal to the public. But former Conservative Charles Minister Tim Lawton said she would command great respect, great expertise and great knowledge, which is absolutely what we need at the head of this inquiry. Not sinister, apparently. It comes after Mike Sedwill, the Home Office's top civil servant, answered MP's questions about historical child abuse allegations. He was asked by Commons Home Affairs Select Committee how his department lost or destroyed 114 files that would have shed light on the alleged abuse. And of course it was handed over to others as well, wasn't it? We've covered that earlier in the show. Mr. Sedwill said the committee the files which relate to the 1980s and 1990s were discovered missing after an expert investigator was drafted in to look into the Home Office's handling of paedophile allegations in February last year. He said the investigator discovered they were missing after he trawled a database of 750,000 files using search terms including child abuse, paedophilia and PIE, an anagram of paedophile information exchange. Mr. Sedwill stressed that the inquiry had not found any evidence that documents had been inappropriately destroyed. Well, losing 114 secret files on something as important as that must just be routine for them, I would have thought. Perhaps. And, I've got David Mulholland calling me. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will now wrap up this week's show by just saying our one last story. This is from the Daily Mail, Simon Walters, 6th of July 2014. Tories' new Labour law would ban all public sector strikes. Cameron plots the biggest attack on unions in 30 years. Plans intend to ban teachers and public sector workers from going on strike. Unions will have to prove that half of their membership supports the walkout. Tories say in practice it will put an end to virtually all public sector strikes. So there you go, Britain. The establishment is going to do what it wants to you. Bend over and take it, and they will cremate their cares midsummer. And you, meanwhile, will have your schools and hospitals closed down while your funds are given to friends of the governing elite. Okay? So bend over and take it, and we're going to make it illegal for you to do anything about it. So there you go. Bend over and take it, Britain. Or you can keep listening to this show at beyondthenews.co.uk. Tell others. Everything there I've spoken about. I know it's horrible, isn't it, really? Horrible stuff I've been talking about. I haven't enjoyed it at all. But it's real, it's there, it's documented, and all the sources are at my website, beyondthenews.co.uk. You can check us out on Facebook, and you can follow me on Twitter at Jim Grant Comedy. Thank you ever so much. We'll have a little bit more light-hearted next week. Coming on next week's show, we've got somebody who's going to tell you how to grow your own organic food at a very small budget. and in a very small space as well. Her new scheme is about edible Eastbourne. That's what it's called. And we're also going to see if we can get David Mulholland on as well. All right, cheers then. Bye-bye.